Welcome to the Wanderer's Notes. I am one who has crossed countless thresholds, ventured into places not meant for this world. I have walked the ruins of fallen heavens, conversed with shadows older than memory, and listened to the voices once called divine. Today, I bring a tale etched in lightning and echoed in the halls of eternity. It is not the story of a monster or a martyr, but of a god, Zeus. He is known by many names: Jupiter, the Sky Father, the Lord of Olympus. To some, he is the arbiter of justice; to others, a tyrant cloaked in a thunderstorm. The stories of his power built empires, and the legends of his wrath ground them to dust. Whispers speak of a shout that could shatter armies. Legends tell of a mountain he struck down to silence a defiant god. Some say he once hurled a bolt into the sea, carving a maelstrom that swallowed the Trojan fleet for a single slight. And in the unconfirmed myths, it is said that Zeus himself once incinerated a star warning to worlds that dared to contemplate rebellion. He is the roar before the storm, the last light his enemies ever see, the god who could grant the rain or turn the sky to ash. This is not a sermon, nor is it an indictment. This is a recorded chronicle of glory and sin, of love and power, of a being both divine and deeply flawed. Before Olympus rose from the clouds, before mankind had shaped its myths, there was chaos. From it, the Titans emerged ancient and vast, their rule spanning eons. Cronus, who devoured time itself, held dominion over the cosmos. And from his bloodline, Zeus was born. His beginning was marked by fear. A prophecy foretold that Cronus would be overthrown by his own child. In his paranoia, he swallowed each of his offspring at birth. But Rhea, mother of gods, deceived him. She bore Zeus in secret, hiding the infant on the island of Crete. There, nurtured by nymphs on honey and goat's milk, the storm within him grew. It is said the very sky trembled while he nursed, that thunder rumbled in his cradle. His destiny was not carved in stone, it was written in lightning. Zeus grew into a being of immense strength, not only of body, but of mind. He returned not as a vengeful son, but as a strategist. With a potion, he forced Cronus to disgorge his siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Together, they waged war. The Titanomachy raged for 10 years. The heavens burned, the seas boiled, and the mountains screamed. But in the end, the old gods fell. Cronus was cast into Tartarus, and Zeus rose not merely as a king, but as the embodiment of order. He divided the realms with his brothers. To Poseidon, the sea; to Hades, the underworld. And the sky infinite and indomitable belonged to Zeus. The world was no longer wild. It was ruled. From the peak of Olympus, Zeus forged a new age. He did not just command, he built a system. Gods, demigods, mortals, everything had its place. Law flowed from Olympus like rain, and justice became a weapon as much as a shield. But power requires teeth. When Prometheus stole fire for humanity, it was Zeus who chained him to a rock for eternity. When mortals grew arrogant, he sent the flood to wipe them clean. When gods harbored doubt, Zeus offered a reminder that thunder would always be louder than reason. That throne was not built on peace, but on control. And one cannot speak of Zeus without speaking of his women: Leda, Europa, Io, simile names that echo through mythology, often reduced to victims of divine lust. Zeus took the form of a swan, a bull, a flame, a storm. He seduced, he deceived, he conquered. Each union birthed a legend. The blood of Zeus shaped history. But the price was not small. Hera, his wife and sister, wore a crown of burning jealousy. Her vengeance smoldered. Mortals were cursed. Innocents were caught in the crossfire. Every spark of passion left a forest of grief in its wake. My journey to encounter Zeus led me not to the gleaming peaks of Olympus, but to a forgotten cave on a storm-battered cliffside, beneath the ruins of a temple so ancient its god had no name. The air here was heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and the palpable weight of eons. As a storm gathered on the horizon, casting the world in a bruised, purple light. I sensed his presence. He sat on a stone ledge, appearing not as a mighty king, but as an old man, his form weathered by eternity, his eyes holding the ghost of a dying storm. I approached cautiously and sat by a small, crackling fire I had prepared. The silence was profound, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder. I extended my unique ability, bridging the gap between our beings, and began. They say you were born in secret. I began, my voice soft against the growing wind. Hidden from a father who devoured his own children, your first breath was an act of rebellion. Was your war against the Titans one of vengeance, or something more? His gaze remained on the horizon, but his voice filled the space around me, ancient and weary.
Vengeance is a mortal luxury,
He rumbled.
Krumus was not just a father, he was chaos. He consumed the future to preserve a stagnant present. My war was not for revenge, it was for existence itself, for the right of the world to become, to change, to live. Order had to be forged from the chaos, and the forging required fire.
You forged that order from the peak of Olympus, I countered. You gave the world laws, but your justice was often brutal. Prometheus, chained to his rock for giving mortals fire. The great floods that wiped the slate clean, was it truly justice? Or was it control? A flicker of the old lightning sparked in his eyes.
A king who cannot make the hard choices is no king at all. A foundation built on sentiment is a foundation of sand. Prometheus defied the natural order. Mortals grew arrogant, believing themselves gods. I did what was necessary to preserve the balance I had fought a war to create. Control, yes. The sky must control the storm, or the storm will consume everything. It is a burden, not a pleasure.
I shifted, the firelight dancing across the cave walls. The poets and myths are filled with your passions. Leda, Europa, Io, countless mortals and goddesses. But each affair seemed to leave a trail of sorrow. Was it love, or was it conquest? Do you feel remorse for the chaos your desires unleashed? For the first time, a deep sigh escaped him, a sound like the wind receding after a gale.
Mortals sympathy,
He said.
They see only the act, not the impulse. I was the storm. I was the golden rain, the driving wind. I was life in all its untamed, creative, and destructive force. Was it love? Sometimes. Was it desire? Always. But remorse, eternity gives one perspective. I see the ripples now, the echoes of grief. I did not create their pain with malice, but my very nature, my power, meant that my touch could bless or burn. It is a truth I have had millennia to contemplate.
This led me to the heart of it. You are worshipped, feared, desired, but are you ever truly known? You sit on the loneliest throne in the cosmos, surrounded by beings who see only the symbol, the power, the thunderbolt. What is it like to be the object of a billion prayers, yet be utterly alone? His form seemed to shrink, the weight of the question pressing down on him.
you are the first to ask that.
He whispered, his voice raw.
They pray to the thunder, not the god holding it. They beg the storm for rain, but never ask if the sky is weary of weeping. They see the crown, but not the head that aches beneath it. To be a symbol is to be a statue, cold, hard, and unchanging. They have worshipped my power for so long, they have forgotten the being who wields it. Yes, it is the loneliest throne.
I then posed the question I ask all beings I encounter. If you could change one thing about your existence, or if you had one deepest, most intimate wish, something unrelated to your power or your fate, what would it be? And his response, though quiet, was more powerful than any thunderclap. He finally turned his gaze toward me, and in his ancient eyes, I saw not a god, but a prisoner. My wish, he said, a sad smile touching his lips.
It is simple, yet utterly impossible. I wish to be seen. Not as a king, not as a symbol, not as a storm. I wish to lay down this thunderbolt, just for a day, and walk among mortals, to have a conversation, like this one, without the weight of a crown. To be looked upon not with fear or awe, but with simple understanding. To be known, not for what I can do, but for who I am.
He paused, his gaze turning back to the endless, stormy sea.
But my power is my prison. I am the thunder, and the thunder can never be quiet. I am a king, and a king can never be just a man.
His words lingered long after his form dissolved into the storm. They colored the other whispers I had collected on my journey, disparate tales that now seemed to hold a deeper truth. There is a small village nameless, a map that suffered a drought for 7 years. The elders say that in the 8th summer, a stranger in a traveler's cloak arrived. He climbed the hill overlooking the valley and sat there, unmoving, from dusk until dawn. When he left, the rains came. The villagers did not call it a miracle. They built no shrines, offered no sacrifices. They remembered only the presence silent, yet as heavy as thunder. I believe it was him, not Zeus of Olympus, but Zeus of solitude. There was another night I will never forget, a feast held in a timeless realm, where the forgotten gods gathered. Zeus was there not as a king, but as an equal. They spoke of fading power, of mortals who no longer feared or prayed. He said nothing until the very end. When the last believer forgets our names, he asked, his voice barely a whisper, what is left? And in that question, I saw a fear not of death, but of erasure. And finally, I found a scorched piece of parchment in a ruined library. It told of a time when Zeus walked among men, not to rule, but to learn. A village was swept by plague. A stranger appeared white-bearded, with lightning in his eyes. He did not heal with thunderbolts. He used herbs, trembling hands, and sleepless nights. No one knew his name. They only remembered that he vanished when the last child laughed again. What haunted me was not the miracle, but the anonymity. Perhaps, in that moment, Zeus was not a god, but something else, something closer and more real. When I left him, the sky was quiet. What is Zeus? A tyrant who wields justice as his sword, a protector burdened by divinity, or merely a victim of the very expectations he created? That is not for me to decide. He is still there in the clouds that gather before a storm, in the thunder that echoes after the silence, in every symbol of absolute power shadowed by absolute doubt. Perhaps, like all great beings, Zeus was not meant to be understood. He was meant to be remembered. And so, this entry in the Wanderer's notes is closed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you'd like to delve deeper into the secret lives of the legendary, the mystical, and the misunderstood, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Wanderer's Notes to not miss the next untold stories from my extraordinary journeys.